Somebody's going to ask me to record this and it's going to be too late after. I love seeing everybody's faces in the morning. Yay.
Good morning.
Good morning, Paulette. Hi,
Hey.
Debbie.
Hi, Donna.
I want to talk to you. I'm going to email you after this is over.
Well, that sounds serious.
Well, hey, I've been sick for a week, so.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, I have a cold, sore throat, cold. Won't go away. Got
Well,
over
it's
wet.
apparently
the rain,
what's happening right now. Everybody's getting sick.
10 days of rain.
Where's my sound?
10 days of rain is what
Well, it's total extremes in California, right? Either it's on fire, either it's in drought, and now it's flooded.
It's
Go
really
big or
bad.
go home. Listen, Paulette, got to go big or go home.
Well, I'm home.
Hi,
Yeah.
Sabrina.
Hi,
Ellen.
friends.
Hi, Ellen.
Happy New Year.
Let me see your hair, Ellen. You did something fun. Love it. Oh, I can't hear you.
There
but
we
I
go.
can see. There
Unmute.
you-
No, I didn't. It's just a mess. I can't do the orange anymore because I can't do overall dye because it irritates me. So I just do these. So they're now doing
Well,
these.
I love it.
Anyway, and I washed it and didn't do anything to
Well,
it.
you know, maybe that's the way to go because it looks awesome.
And it's just sort of a mess. And yeah. So
Well, I'm really excited. So I wanted to do a meet and greet. I know some of you have been with me for the long haul. But really what I decided is I kind of just got out of my funk too, I think. You know, I'm now in a really different place and I wanted to just take everything that we were doing and make it some kind of confidence building momentum, almost like a college course for this year. And not that it's too progressive in the sense that you can't jump in and at every time or in and out whenever you want, but build on something instead of like individual lessons every month that kind of, even though they related, didn't really connect. So first of all, I kind of wanted to do a thing that I really need to do with everybody and show you some of the shortcuts that I built into Patreon. Because I think probably one of the things, the biggest issues I have with Patreon is it's a bit clumsy to find things. If you don't know that there's secret hidden places to find, and they are kind of secret and hidden, but then once you know, you can't unknow it. So I wanted to do that, but I also wanted to just say hi to all the faces and give you a little like sneak peek at what we're going to be doing, answer any questions about supplies. I know I've gotten a couple emails. I have the colors, but some of them are in fluid, some of them are in high flow, some are heavy body. My answer usually to that is don't get anything unless you know you need it. There's no reason to substitute cobalt teal fluid for cobalt teal heavy bodied if it's working just fine for you. It's only when it's like, this isn't going to work. So I guess I want to start off by just saying, is anybody panicking or have any questions or like, holy shit, I'm so glad we're here. I've been trying to figure out on Patreon how to do X. Could you just tell me and stop me the pain?
I want to know, do you have a new studio in your new house?
Thank you. Yes. So I call the house the cottage. It's not a tiny house, but it's a small house. It's about 1,500 square feet. And it's got what they call 3 bedrooms. But one of them is a studio. It's got like glass doors. So who would want to sleep in a bedroom with glass doors that, you know, whatever. So yes, I'm in my new little studio space in my new, hopefully final destination back in Lincolnton of all places. But
Okay.
yeah, so it's still
I
not.
know. So Kelly isn't right down the street anymore.
No, what Kelly wasn't really right down the street before either. I'm only like 10 minutes further away.
Oh, okay.
Because I was so north of the area. I kind of had to start looking on the outskirts, like, on the fringe where it gets a little scary. So yeah, Lincolnton felt like at least I knew it.
Congratulations, Donna.
I'm so happy. Thank you so,
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'd show you it, but I can only really show you this corner.
It's beautiful though. It is just beautiful.
Thank you. So happy. And it's been a great Christmas. My oldest unfortunately had COVID, so we opened presents via Zoom. But always has to be something happening that's extremely difficult usually.
So they stayed in Atlanta.
Yeah,
Oh well.
it happens. Practicing for my empty nester days. Any other thank you. That was a great question. Thank you for asking. Anybody else? I see on a lunch break at work, but hello. Well, then I'll just kind of start
No more
by
lunch breaks for me.
isn't that nice? Are you officially retired?
Officially, this is my well, as of the 31st, but this is the first day that I would have gone to work that I'm not.
Well, this is we should have had champagne
Yeah, well, that's true.
next time. You need to let us know beforehand so we can prepare. Look, Paulette's looking at her watch like we don't drink champagne in California at 9 a.m. Well, on the East Coast, noon is good enough.
That's right. Right. You just put some orange juice in there. You got a mimosa.
That's right.
Good for you,
Um,
Ellen.
Right. Well, that's huge. Congratulations. I'm going to just show a little bit about how I'm doing this, because I think anytime we start something new, it seems like it's like, how did, why, when? And there's some things that happen behind the scenes that sometimes I don't always show. So the Inspiration Any Day book, which is the one we've been using, this is the same book, only it opens horizontally. So it's basically the same book. One's going to be this way, one's going to be this way. We're still going to do Inspiration Any Day in this regular book that we've been working on, but I decided to do something like this. And here was the reason I changed it up. A lot of times, the bigger the book, the more time you have to spend investing in something. And I didn't want this to be, we're making a project every week. I want to do stuff and I want to do it in practice, but I don't want it to be the be all end all that we do in a journal. I want this to be where we play and experiment and fail first, and then take those lessons and then take it to whatever we want to do. So everything's going to kind of circle back to this journal. And it's kind of the same, but totally different from what we were doing. We're still studying color. We're still moving through terminology and applying it to artwork, but it's more in I keep going back to coursework. It's more in a coursework way where we're not only building an art journal, we're going to build the reference for everything as well. So it's a pretty and functional space. Every one of my pages, see how I just have wax paper over them. One of my reasons for doing this is because if I do want this to be a resource down the road, I want to make sure that it's not covered in paint. But I also know I'm working ahead of you guys. So I want to make sure when I'm showing it, it doesn't look like all the time that I'm ahead and doing something on the pages behind it. So I was kind of safeguarding it, but I've just taken wax paper and folded them over. So I'll be pulling those out. If you're wondering what the hell is she doing, I'm pulling off the wax paper. So the first day, we're going to our first lesson, we're going to kind of go through and just establish the palette. I have made reference to these stamps. In no way, shape, or form do I think that you cannot draw this grid. Do you need the stamp? No, but I created the stamps for this really to just make sure that it kept consistent. I think being a Virgo, I'm a little OCD, and that makes me happy. So and then I made note of these little brown pieces of paper. I do like working on craft. I think it's a fun way to add like a different background and get us used to thinking outside of a white background, whether it's blue, yellow, green, or craft. So I started putting these in with things like just washi tape, so little flip outs. And I have always loved art journals that had stick outs and flip outs and so I'm kind of channeling back to the days where it was like, oh, thick textured things. So again, do you need to go buy these kind of things? Absolutely not. Do they make me happy? Absolutely. And she who dies with the most product wins. And then we're going to start working on building terminology. Now, I know all of you have heard things like hue, value, tint, tone, but they get confusing after a while when you hear them and you don't have something to just be like, wait, what was that? So we're going to be playing around with that. We're going to do some experimenting. I'm going to be giving you printables. Now you're like, but how did you print on that little piece of paper? Those of you from the scrapbooking days, how many of you were scrapbookers? You remember when digital scrapbooking came in the thing and we all were taping paper to a piece of computer paper, running it through to make it a tag. I kind of just pulled that back out too. So no, do you need to do that? Absolutely not. You just print it on paper. You can just write it down if you want to. But I'll show you how I'm incorporating these little things in there as add-ons. Again, providing you terminology and things like that so we can reference. Going through some of the things that I'm doing are like this goes over tone. Well, how do I want to give myself a mental like cue? Well, tone means gray. So that's why tint means white, tone, gray, shade, black. Like, even though we're doing that and making them in here, I'm also giving myself this quick kind of reference. What does that mean? And again, I'm spelling it out on these little flip outs here with little extra things if you want to read about it. I even go into things because I always get asked things like, what is Mars black? Well, what's lamp black? Well, you know, all those things that even at a drop of a hat, I don't know the answer to. I've got to research. I just want to put them in there so we just don't have to have those questions. Show you a little bit more, and then we're going to start applying it. Now, these are not like, again, I mentioned like the Louvre, like none of this stuff's in here do I expect to go in the Louvre. It's a practice. Well, how do I share with you about blacks? And it's probably hard to see here, but one is painted in carbon black and one is painted in bone black. And you can see how that one's really opaque and this one you can see some texture. So it's just going through what would be the best way. We do things like image transfer and gluing things down and collage. So not only we're just doing the black, we're doing, okay, let's pull in some other techniques to make this a true lesson, but learn. Some of you are going to look at this and you're going to start to sweat, because this is always the thing that when I teach makes grown women cry. But we need to do it. We need to understand what value is. And when I teach, you know, those number stickers I keep referencing that I have 4,000 of, I'm using them everywhere in this book. Do you need them? No, you can just write number 4 on a 4. But since I have them, but this really creates a language. And what do I mean by that? I mean, if I say, you know, you used a 7 in value and it really should have been a 4, now we have concrete. What does that mean? Because if I say that should have been a darker value, what does that mean? So this is going to create a language for us to carry through in everything. So I will say January is a little bit of the grunt work. We have to do a little bit of setting up, but once we do that, it's all fun and games. And then we're going to take each month, and I'm kind of up to March, so I'm just going to share this with you on the down low here. But then we're going to take February, and there's other lessons too in there. But then we're going to take February, and we're going to explore cadmium red. What is it? And we say red, cadmium red medium. What does it mean? Is it warm? Is it cool? What can I get out of it? Not every red makes pink, which is absolutely disturbing, by the way. You just think if you pick up red and you want to make a pink, you can. Not all of them are. So I'm even going through and saying there's 2 schools of thought with value. One school of thought is, and I find anybody that's gone to art school usually comes out with this school of thought. And anybody that hasn't, we make up our own rules, and I like them better. But the first school of thought is value starts out of the tube. The darkest cadmium red can be is cadmium red out of the tube. And that's kind of true. That's not a lie. So when you make a value, you're constantly making it lighter. The darkest it can be is tube. And that's why I kind of say, okay, if that's true, then this is what we get. But if we believe, I like a 10-point value scale, that you can get cadmium red darker by adding a darker color, then this makes our color understanding so much more intense and broader. So I'm taking the things that we've all heard, that we've all seen, that everybody on the internet has an opinion on, just kind of breaking it down. You decide what works for you. Neither one of those are right, but at least if you know the rules, you can break them. And then we do some comparison of layers. I think this kind of takes me back to the days of art journaling as well, because I always used to say I'm about an 8 layers girl. Like an art journal, how do you know you're done? Oh, I got to have at least 8 layers on something in order to feel satisfied. Some people only need 4 layers. Some people need 25 layers. This is experimenting on a palette with layers of value. Which one feels comfortable? And you'll be shocked to find out where I felt comfortable in this. I think 8 layers is a lot, especially in a little tiny box. So we're going to talk about, how do you know enough is enough? And do you like what it looks like? Because there are arguments for things to only have 2 values, especially in abstract work. If you're trying to work on context or contrast, that would be a great way to do it. So arguments for it. Again, I'm just going to show you kind of one more, just to show you how I'm taking what we've been doing and amplifying in a certain way. So then in March, we're going to focus on quinacridone magenta. And again, I've made the value scale, but instead of doing a mixing, like what do we get when we mix the colors? I decided to take all the colors and mix with 75% magenta, 50% magenta, 25% magenta. And what this actually sets up for us is a homogenized color palette. I have just taken this and made absolutely 100% a homogenized color palette. You could paint anything with, I haven't done 30 colors here, which is just kind of an interesting way to play with bias. How much of one color, and they all become, they all got the same mama, but they all got different baby daddies. So anyway, I just wanted to show you how we're going to progress. Oh, here's another one. Of course, I had to do things like cardinals if we're doing cadmium red, poppies in the art journal. I've been doing a lot of florals. This is the magenta series. All of these are mixed with magenta, which is a cool way to approach doing a series of work. Like I know, Becca, you work in series all the time. Sometimes you don't know what you need to do or don't know the questions to ask. And then if you're just doing this, all of a sudden it's like mind blown. So that was my little quick overview, but I thought, did that spark questions, concerns?
Donna.
Yeah.
How did you land on that color palette?
So that's a great question. So after the 1.5 years of doing these color studies, I thought cobalt teal was the be all end all of the world. And come to find out it's not. And as I started working with other colors, I feel like for me, and you obviously can make substitutions, and I talk a little bit about that in lessons, like maybe ultramarine blue isn't your go-to. You'd rather have dioxazine purple instead or something. It is literally, you can mix every one of those colors together without getting something horrific every single time. And it just ended up going back to those. There were things in there, like I do really love these 2 colors. Like I wanted them in there. But as mixatives, they're like lightening agents because they're already light, that I don't always need to go to white. And this changes the palette mixing as well. So I just kept finding that this was my home base. Some of you, if you've ordered stuff, you probably got one of these in there. But this, little card, when you look at this, here's another thing. It's got rainbow order or rainbow to it. I've really touched on every color except for green, because I feel like the greens in paint tubes kind of suck ass. Like they're never the right green. And so mixing a green, I was like, well, I don't need a green. I can mix it with these yellows and these blues variations I have in here. I can get browns. And there's also darks and lights and middle tones. So it wasn't necessarily like specific in the sense of it needs to have this, that, and the other thing. It was like, this kind of solved all the world's problems paint wise in my work. But like I said, I did talk about like maybe naphthol red is the red you love and you're not willing to exchange that out. Well, it doesn't really change anything, because everything we're doing is about process, not about end result. So it's okay to make and like I said, if you have, nickel azo yellow in fluid and you don't have a heavy body and you have a full tube, don't go out and buy a tube because it might work for what we're doing.
Okay,
Did
thanks.
did that help?
Yes.
And there's another thing too, like I think something like Payne's Gray, most people love Payne's Gray. They don't find Payne's Gray offensive. It's kind of like a neutral dark. Purple, on the other hand, even though I love it as a mixative, using it kind of makes me jittery. but because I have magenta in there, I can make beautiful lavenders and beautiful purples. So I kind of was making decisions. What do I need and what don't I need?
Okay.
And then I'm just going to tap on it too. We do use other colors. Like I've brought a series of blacks into the mix. Like, even though that's not in the palette, when we need something, or if there's something like, hey, what if? Doesn't mean I won't throw random things into there. Doesn't mean it's excluding everything else. So also know that it's not exclusionary.
And also, everybody could get different results depending on what colors they use, because I mean, a pure pigment's a pure pigment. I mean, titanium white, ultramarine blue is ultramarine blue. It's a pure pigment, but some things are not, like Payne's Gray. And it depends on what brand you use, because some make Payne's Gray with ultramarine blue and burnt sienna.
Umber?
Yeah, burnt umber. And some make Payne's Gray with like 2-3 different things, and some use a phthalo blue.
I've seen Payne's Gray be green.
And some are, yeah, well, because they've used a phthalo blue green shade in the mixture. Because I have found this, and I've been looking at different brands and taking the mass tone and then lightening it and seeing what it comes out to, and then looking at what the pigments are that are in it, because it's vastly different. And I find, because I love Payne's Gray, but I have found that I like Golden's Payne's Gray.
Yeah. And that's also another really important point you made, Ellen, about like putting a lighter color in it to see what is it actually like out of the tube. It just like, what, I don't know, if you're looking at that, what color is it? Dark. It's just dark. But when you put some white into it, you can actually start to see why it's not giving you the results, because it's brown.
Yeah. Or green, because it's got that phthalo blue green shade. It's got the 15-3 instead. I mean, even if you want a phthalo in it, which I don't, instead of the 15 or 15-1, they've used a 15-3 in it. I know.
I don't know
I'm
what
a pigment
you're saying.
nerd. I'm a nerd.
15-3, that sounds like the score of a football game.
But and so I tend to like a Payne's Gray that is an ultramarine based Payne's Gray. But I would not have ever known that. I would have thought Payne's Gray is Payne's Gray is Payne's Gray. Raw umber is another one that you can get different results with. If I hadn't done kind of, like your color study, but I was doing different colors,
That's a good point too. Like, I'll be using all golden. I do feel golden is the best paint, without a doubt, but that doesn't mean you have to go out and buy golden. But it will help if you're like, why am I getting something that is so much different than what I'm seeing on the screen? To consider, I might be using Liquitex. And I also say, don't go out and buy golden. If you have a full tube of Payne's Gray and Liquitex, use it, and then, buy the next thing. There's no reason to waste. Well, I wasted so much money on art supplies. That's probably really the pot calling the kettle black here. But there's really no reason to, throw money onto something because you can work with what you've got too. Keep talking, but I'm going to do a little screen share because I wanted to show you guys this over on Patreon. And I know some of you do know this, but for the most part, I think people don't know what I'm about to show you. So let's see if I can put that there. Well, that's not really what I wanted to do. One moment, please. Your call is very important to us. Please stay on the line. Okay. Let's try that again. Sorry. There we go. All right, can you all see Patreon? All right,
Yes.
so let's go to page. I've got to move all of you so I can see. All right. So it should be when you go to Patreon, you kind of land on a page like this. This is like all the posts, and it does read like a blog, which is kind of annoying because back in the day of blogs, at least it said January, February, March, April, May, and it had like the posts, and you could go back and reference, and you could organize. Well, there's a couple ways to search Patreon. Now, depending on your tier. So one of the ways is like if you're at a $5 tier, there's a hell of a lot more content that's at the $20 tier and the $49 tier and the $100 tier. And for you to whittle through all that content is short of absolutely the most awful way to spend your time. So you can actually just go here and you could be like, I'm a fan, I'm only at the $5 tier. You can click that, and that eliminates anything that is outside of your tier. So if you're like, I don't care what's happening anywhere else, this is everything that you have access to. Not sure if that was something that y'all knew.
That's
and
weird,
again,
because I would have thought that I wouldn't see anything in a tier above.
so it reads like a blog. So everything and everything, it'll say you could access this if you're at the $5 tier. The only way you can access this content is 20. Yes, it's one way to upsell it, but it's also says, okay, but there's a lot more content, because if you just go in there and you're at the $5 tier, you don't know that there's other stuff. And as an artist, yes, I'd love for you to subscribe to the next tier, but I also want you to know there's other stuff happening here. So that's one way. So the other way, let's take that off, is to play around here. Can you see these? That button works, or you can say, I'm just a fan. I just want to click that. And that eliminates all the other things there as well. So it's a shortcut. I'm going to clear all those. The other thing is, if you're looking for, Donna posted a video yesterday and there's like images, or Donna posted an image, or I've never done a podcast. Maybe one day I will. But you can also say, I just want to find everything that's videos. Screw the other stuff. I just want to sort by the media type or the type of post. Or you can be like, listen, Donna did something in November. I can't remember what it was, but or I missed November. I was in Hawaii for the month. I'd like to find out what I missed. You can go through by month as well. Or you can literally go, Donna did encaustic. I want to know where the encaustic, type the word encaustic, and anything that has the word encaustic in it will come up. The other way is the super secret way that has been here the whole time, but you don't know it's there. You see this 73 more? I have tagged every post in a way that makes it searchable. So for example, if you're I just want to know all the inspiration any days. I'm in the $5 tier. I get inspiration any day and maybe a dozen other things every once in a while, but I just want the inspiration any days. You can go in here and look up art journal, or hopefully it's in here. If you see it, shout out at me. Inspiration any day in there. La-di-da. Okay. I don't know where you are. But there is a tag like that. If you're like,
Yes, stop. You keep going past it. It's right here. It's right number 41, art journal.
Oh, this one.
Yes.
Also, if you are at the $49 tier, which has business tips, you can click here. It isolates everything. And why is that important? Maybe you just found me. Maybe you're like, I'm going to join the $49 tier. That's a tier for people that are looking to make maybe some extra bucks from their hobby and maybe work into a professional. I want to know how to frame my work. How do I get public? Any and everything of those things that me as a working artist need to know. Instagram handles, websites, domain names, all that stuff. If you just joined yesterday, how do you know? You're only going to see the stuff moving forward. You're not, so going back, if you join and you only join for a month, you can still access everything I've ever done. Why is that important? Let's say you're at the $20 tier and you're like, I'm interested in finding out what Donna has to tell me about business, but I don't want to stay there for a long-term subscription. I mean, I want you to, but if you're like, I just want to get the most I can for the less amount of money, maybe you go February, I'm going to upgrade to the business tier. I'm going right there. I'm going to click all 37 of those posts. I'm going to get all the information. And then the next month, I'm going to go down. Totally can do that. Let's see. The Rolodex thing, abstract art, mixed media, art challenges. Like you just can click on all of those. But now you might be saying, I saw the art challenges, but I couldn't get access to them. Well, it could be that you're at the $5 tier trying to access $49 tier content and it's not going to show up. But there is a way to search through everything. And I started, it's going to be at the bottom because I don't have a lot. I started putting a tag of 2023 so that starting this year, I'm doing a full course of stuff. At least you could just click on there. What has Donna done for this course load? And so if you have suggestions even, Donna, that's great, but I would really like a tag because every time I want to go in there and I want to find artwork that you've done of feet, well, I haven't done any, so you're not going to find it. But like, if you're like, please tag this, that would make my life easier. That's what I need too. So how many of you did not know about searching through here?
I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, it does make it a little bit, and there's also free here. So if you are watching this and you're not a patron, you can also, this is all free. There's 24 free art lessons that I have done since November 2019 when I started this. So you can access that, or even I would love it if you told your friends, hey, here's free content on Patreon, consider joining, so that's another thing. Am I missing anything? I don't think so. Not sure if you all know, I talked just quickly about moving between memberships. That is something you can do. And thank the gods, Patreon did two things over the last couple months. The first one is they have made content previewable. Meaning if you go on there and you're at the $5 tier, but I have posted something on the $20 tier and you're like, but I don't even know if I want to go up to the $20 tier. Who knows what she's posting? There's now a preview. I don't know how many seconds it gives, but it now gives you a preview of the videos that I post that maybe you don't have access to, but you want to know what's there. Caveat, it doesn't take everything I've ever put there and do it. It's like start now and move forward. So it won't be on all the past content, but now I'm uploading and clicking a button that says allow this for preview. The other thing is they have changed the date that they are going to charge. Meaning it used to be, and it was absolutely a shit show because they would charge every month on the 1st, which is fine if you've been there. But what if you go, I'm going to join Donna on Patreon. You join on the 28th. You get charged for a whole month on the 28th and then get charged again for the next month on the 1st. And the COVID happened too quick for them to even, the volume of what happened on Patreon was immense. So now if you join on the 14th, you get charged on the 14th. They have changed that. So if you decide I'm going to give Donna a break for a while, or I don't know when I want to register, I'm not registering to the 1st because I'm going to get banged, that has changed. But you can fluidly move between tiers. And I always reference teachers because that's kind of how I was when I was a school teacher. During the school months, I didn't do a lot, but during the summer, I would cram everything in. I'd buy online courses and do it all. So Patreon can work that same way. Like you can stay at the $5 tier until the summer months and then go up to whatever tier you'd want, literally siphon everything that's there and then go back down to a tier, or vice versa, any way you want to do it. So that's another thing that a lot of people, I get a lot of emails about that. How do I change my tier? The year, if you sign up for a year, and I know, thank you, by the way, I know a lot of you have taken that route. It seems like if you sign up for a year, you've got to sign up in January. That's not how it works. you could switch at any time and you save 10%. So even if you're at the $5 tier and you're like, I could pay $5 every month, or I could get 10% off and get a couple months free. You also can tier up from that. You just can't tier down. Does that make sense? So if you're like, I'm going to sign up at the $20 tier and for a year, lock that in and then say, no, I just want to pay $5 now. That's not a thing, but you can tier up.
Or tier down.
If you tier down, once you pay the year up front and get the discount, it doesn't allow you to get your money back 6 months in. So 6 months in, if you're at the $5 tier and you're like, but you know what? I want to go up to the $20 tier for the rest of the year. It will add the difference with the discount. It just won't give you a refund. That makes sense? And that's more to protect the artist. Because if the artist is like, oh, thank God, I have my mortgage money this month because 3 people signed up for a year. And then like midway through, they're like, nah, never mind. I'm kind of SOL. So it's kind of to protect the artist from refunds, I guess. All right. I'm going to come back.
That doesn't make sense.
Tell me again, what doesn't make sense?
Well, so let me try to talk it back to you.
Mhm.
So if I want to go up to the third tier,
Mhm.
but I only want to do it for a couple of months.
Then don't sign up for a year.
Oh, okay. That's where I was not getting.
Yeah.
Don't sign up for. Well, that makes
Then
sense.
you just pay month to month. You're not getting the discount for signing up and committing to a year. Because really, Patreon, you don't need to commit.
Right.
The incentive for me as an artist on Patreon to say, hey, I'm offering an annual thing, it is saying, okay, I know I'll be able to get, like, I know they're going to be here for a year, and it's not going to be like somebody comes in for 3 months and then doesn't ever come back again. It kind of like, as an artist, the site is designed to safeguard the artist.
Right. No, that makes sense. And I think we had talked about that. And so I was just like going, okay, what didn't I remember?
Right. But let's say you signed up for a year at the $5 level and then want to go up to the $20.
Right.
You can take the last 6 months of your $5 tier and prorate the difference.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
But you're going to be committed. So
right. No. I understand that. I mean, because we talked about the $20 level and, and explained very clearly what you meant by that. And so, and I'm thinking about, well, how about, and so that's a conversation I want to have with you, because I still have some more questions, but not today.
Hey, Heather had a great question on the chat.
Oh,
the
thanks.
art journal, which level are you doing that at?
So, good question. So for the $5 tier, it's basically the art journal, just inspiration any day, where I open the book and I do an art journaling lesson basically akin to the Inspiration Wednesday that I used to do. There are every once in a while extra lessons that fall into the $5 category, but they're usually not intensive. They're more like an overview or a generalization. The $20 tier is the meat of my Patreon. It is the heart. You will get access to every single thing that I do in here for that $20 tier. The additional tiers I'm going to be adding on. Thank you, Sabrina, because I would have forgotten to say this. I'm wanting to be a bit more interactive. I want to be here to assist and help, mostly because, this isn't a real job. You have to make it up as you go along. And there's really nobody to ask. Like, who do you call when you need art advice, art business advice? You hope you're calling the right person. Everybody's got an opinion on it. So I'm adding a live Zoom every month for my $49 and $100 tier, so that we can talk. like if you have questions, I'm struggling with this. Could you give me 2 cents? I'm in an art show. Why didn't this get picked? I can't figure out how to link my online workshops on my website, or I'm having trouble videoing, or whatever. I'm framing my artwork. Where do I go? If that conversation and those talks kind of bring us together as a community. So not only is it just like a random person or me that we can go to, we can actually talk and decipher better practices that work and have more options, because depending on where you are in the world, depending on what style of art you do, your experience level, it might even be a bigger and more collaborative wealth of information. So I'm adding that in, as well as throwing some tips, business tips into the mix that at the $20 tier, you don't have access to. So that was actually a really good thing. I'm also adding in at all tiers. So even the $5 tier, every other month, kind of when I'm not traveling, sometimes it's easier to do live paints I'm trying to do them on the weekend, so everybody has at least some access to it instead of just during the week. Just doing live paints. I know Joanne and I have spent plenty of time together painting, but just coming, painting, talking, maybe teaching, but it's not like a true, like we're going to sit down and do a lesson. It's more like let's gather together and have a conversation and paint.
That was Heather's question, by the way. I'm not taking credit for that.
Thanks, Heather. That's because Heather's on the down low. Speaking of traveling, Debbie, you're going to the Lynchburg classes.
No.
No, not next year.
Next year?
Yeah, nobody signed up for my Lynchburg classes. I think there's only like 3 people, and so we decided to do it next year.
Oh,
or this year. This year is next year.
2000.
Yeah. Okay.
August.
I'll go look.
Yes.
So
thanks for that shout out there, Ellen.
Yes, you know what, people? She's got in person. This is all great. Patreon's great. Zoom is great. Whatever, online or whatever is all great and everything. And I went into it very resistantly, but yeah, it's okay.
But we're a good time in person, aren't we, Ellen?
Yes, but let me tell you what, in person to me, because that way you really get not only the interaction with the instructor, with the teacher, the tutor, whatever, but with everyone else, and you get to kind of see and absorb an atmosphere. And so I am so grateful, and I will be all shotted up so that I can go places, because let me tell you, I miss going places. And Donna has got lots of in-person opportunities all over the country,
coast to coast,
the world, so that we can all.
I am coming to Texas.
She is going to Texas. That's what I'm saying.
I meant everyone else.
Oh.
I know Donna is.
That's a hard sell.
Yeah,
that's true.
But so we've got to take advantage of these opportunities.
Right.
And she's got a twofer, a back-to-back, my favorite.
It's like I hired her
in Lynchburg. So anybody who is close to Virginia, mid-Atlantic or whatever, this is a fabulous opportunity. Just saying.
You'll give her a quarter later, right?
Yeah.
No, she'll give me a glass of wine at the round table.
That was at least worth a roll of quarters, Debbie.
Okay.
So can I ask one more question? Because I'm sure I'm not the only one. At $49, I can sign up for that on a monthly basis.
Yeah.
So that I can turn it off at any time and go back to my $20.
Correct. But I know this probably doesn't need to be said, but I'm going to say it. If you're at the $20 tier,
I know,
and you say the next month I want to go up to 49, and midway through the month you're like, nah, I'd like to stay at 20. You're not getting $29 back.
Right. No, I understand.
It'll just be the next month will be $20.
No, that's okay. No, I understand that. I just want to make sure that because some people might sign up for the $49 and they're committed now for
It's
the
only
whole
if
year.
you do annually. And like I said, there is it's a separate button that you
Right.
that it'll say like
Okay.
for the year, and it's just you pay up front and it's a discount.
Okay.
So it
Right.
doesn't even come out monthly. It literally is you will not be able to not notice you've
Right.
signed up for the year, because
Right.
it's going to come out all at once.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions about like what we're going to do? I will be doing a video of these are the things you absolutely don't need, because I love them. This silicone mat, I'm tend to be an organizing. I love things to put things in. For me doing this, because it sounds silly, but like this is kind of my job. Like I sit down and I do my job, and I do the Patreon stuff. And then when I want to do things that are not, I kind of pack it up and put it away. And that's how I've been kind of working through this. So that was that kind of thing, organizing it all together. There's a ton of things you do not need, but I will be using. I will always reference that. But I did just pick up, this is totally not even what I planned to talk about, but I did just pick up this book. Somebody, after Instagram 75 hours scrolling, somebody had this book. It's not a must-have, but I found it really interesting. It's called Palette Perfect.
Huh.
And it's a combination of inspiration from fashion and art. Again, this is not a life-changing book, but I just thought it was interesting to see the references to the world. Like, I don't know about you, but I have never gone into a hotel and not been like, oh my God, that rug. Oh my God, this, or something, or the artwork, or somebody even
Right.
like sitting at a
Right.
train station. I have not sat at a train station, but an airport, and you're like, so, oh, look at that outfit. Like,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
always happening. It's not always happening with paint, but connecting the two was a really interesting concept for me that I had just never done. I
Right.
never I separated it all the time. So again, not something that you ever need in your life, but I just thought I can see art and color much differently. And so I was thinking about, I told you each month I'm featuring a color. So February, after we do all the grunt work in January, it's going to be cadmium red, and then it's going to be quinacridone magenta, pyrrole orange. But the one color I'm a little nervous about, which I haven't explored yet, is Titan Mars Pale. Now, this is a great color because it makes a great flesh tone if you want to do a skin without having to think about things, but it also is Titan Mars Pale.
Oh, okay.
And so as I was looking through here, I was like, wait a minute. And so hopefully I can find it on the fly, because that's not what I was thinking about showing you. But then all of a sudden I started having like this newfound respect. Oh, maybe it's not about the color. It's about what the color shares space with. And so for me, it was a great kind of pull together. Like all of a sudden now I'm seeing Titan Mars Pale in palettes that I wouldn't have never created, nor would have searched for that color. I would have been like, oh, teal, what goes with teal? Anyway, I thought that was a pretty interesting. So I can probably put a link in here if you're interested, but I did put it in my Amazon store. So I will share that with you because it's a good one. Yes.
On your list for the supplies,
Mm-hmm.
there are at this point still none of the cards that you recommend, the 5x8 cards.
How about this? I think we on Patreon have bought every single super heavy index card and they're out of stock, because I'm sure the man never sold an index card before he started doing this. And now he's like, I can't keep up with the demand.
Well, he would, and I talked when I called this guy, and I actually got him on a Sunday evening, and he said that he had put in an order, it got all screwed up, so he's trying it, but at some point, and I don't keep on bugging him, but I kind of keep an eye on it. And he does, and he said he will be putting it on Etsy so that we can buy it on Etsy. And I'm thinking, well, I'm looking at all the cards that Amazon sells that are similar to what he sells. And I'm wondering, well, what does it hurt to at least get something that is close enough to that 5x8 and see how it works?
And you
So
know
we've
that these
got a
things are
backup.
just wants, right? Like they're not
All right.
like, here's the reason why I love those cards. They fit these are the cards with clear photo corners in the book.
I bet. Yeah.
So it's not that the cards, like we need them. It's like, oh my God, they fit things to put things in. And I
Right, no.
like the idea of the photo corners, putting them in there because I could take them out and sell them if I like them. Like sometimes you go into these things. I had 4 blank cards. They could have been a hot mess. You know, so
Yeah.
they're not, like I said, they're not needed, but when I find fun
Right.
things,
Right.
I want like these little brown craft cards. By the way, I'm going to be doing a series with that. Then I thought, oh, wouldn't those craft cards be great with the Titan Mars pail?
Well, I ordered that, but it's kind of like I'm holding on to my stack that I got before he went out to say when
I
he
did see
lost
on
sale on it,
Amazon,
and I'm like thinking, well,
they had
I've got
some.
100 here.
They did have on Amazon. I saw a couple of them. I did not see the 5x8 cards, but honestly, you could use cardstock that you've been hoarding and paint it white. You could use cereal boxes, and like it doesn't have to be
Right.
that. I do think that those cards, they're like 17 point. They're a heavyweight card. That's why they're
Right.
so watercolor paper cut to 5x8 will work, or whatever you want to do. It's not it's just because it gets me excited.
Well, I did go and I bought this at Blix, and I figured, well, I can go ahead, like Ellen said, I can go ahead and I can try, drawing and cutting and seeing how that works out also, because I love that size card. It's great.
Something also to consider too is like if you've got a relatively big piece of watercolor paper, just, taping it across like this and just having 4, like you could do one artwork and just divide a piece of paper up into 4 sections. You don't have, and it doesn't have to go in the book either. So there's a lot of, the lesson itself is not enhanced or ruined by the surface you're painting on. Did I forget something else? I feel like I was so excited and I was like, whoo, and now I'm like, I need a nap. Like that was a lot of excitement. Anybody, Marco? I could probably show you a couple more since that's kind of fun.
So Donna, you're suggesting that we go ahead and get the series of the square ones?
Yes, of course. But I do use them. Am I going to use them every single time we do something? No, but I do use them throughout the book. I also use, which I'm about to show you, and Joanne, this is dedicated to you. Not this part, but what I'm going to show you after. I also use an Altoids can. So I know about, Joanne and I know about myself that I go into wanting to make an abstract and it doesn't stay an abstract. So what I'm forcing myself to do in this course is to stop at abstract and walk away. And so Altoid tins, that's just a drawn Altoid tin to break up the page. And I found a color palette as inspiration. I will be sharing that with you in the post. And I was like, well, I love that color palette. Let me find the colors and let me explore abstract. But I'm also doing things like, yes, this is a fun little play, but I'll be including downloadable little things if you're type A like me to add in, to take notes, and then sharing like, this is the palette I used to make this, like just kind of making it more of a reference, So yeah, do you need all the things? No, I use like that. I use those stamps, the grid. This is the small grid. by the way, the small stamp just happens to fit perfectly in the book. And then the big stamp in the beginning kind of fits, well, maybe not perfectly, but it fits in there pretty damn good. So no, I used this once. I used this one like 6 times, I think. So need and want, loose. But yeah, I want you to buy all my products. What else you got? Anything else? Oh, you could get regular cardstock. I know you guys are talking over here and I totally missed. I ran out of cobalt teal. That's not okay. See, I've been showing you stuff in the book, but as I walk away from you, we're not going to be exclusive to just working in the book. I don't even know if you can see this because I put it in plastic, but this is the quinacridone magenta and working with a monochromatic palette and building limited value, because yes, it's great to have a full extension of the value, but sometimes in abstract art, it's too much. So yes, I'm working in the book, but there are also, I also did this, might not be a surprise, but this will be in the cadmium red month, but I did a figure. And again, this is focusing on cadmium red and value. In January, we're going to go through black and white grayscale. Now let's bring the cadmium red in. How does that work? I talk about the power of this combination. There's a reason why I'm starting with red first, because that is a very significant color as we develop as a baby. So yes, this book also doing random things that take it to the next step outside of just making a book. Book will be more of a reference where we take those ideas and build on them. All right. Well,
So Donna, when
yeah.
does everything start? Because I still need to order a few things.
Well, I like to be organized, Debbie.
Yes, I know.
Everything, I'm going to start this off tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? No, the 5th.
Okay.
The 5th. I didn't do inspiration any day on the 1st of the month because I felt like I wanted to prep everybody and get them ready. So Saturday, I'm going to do inspiration any day live.
Okay.
So it's just going to be a live Zoom and I'm going to turn it on and we're going to talk and interact. And I just thought that would be another way to talk about supplies. I thought there may be a possibility not everybody has everything. So I wanted to just give that, a little bit of time to catch up. But tomorrow I'm doing this. We're just going to go through it. It's not intense. I know if you don't have the colors, this won't be hard to make up. Like, you know what I mean? But I do think what's interesting also, and thank you for asking that. So it's going to go start really the 7th. I mean, tomorrow we're going to do that, or the 5th, we're going to do that. Really starting inspiration any day on the 7th, and then the lessons build. But it's also something else as we're working. I'm going to be referring to the colors, to the mixes, warm, cool. This is not by repetitive, just want. It's so that we fluently speak color. And I know some of you will understand this when I say, how many of you were fluent in distress ink? I mean, you knew a rusty hinge from a shabby shutter. I mean, like vintage photo versus walnut stain, like we spoke that with a level of understanding that was a little scary, to be honest. It like was cultish. But I want that to be kind of how we start referring, like you're clearly going to know all the properties of cadmium red, how to work it, how to move, the value, the tint, the tone, the shade, what works in it, because we're just going to be repeating those things. And interestingly enough, quinacridone magenta is the color, I think is the glue in everything that will make every color that you want work for what you're doing. It's kind of a weird thing, but to know that, like, show of hands, or I don't know, talk in the sidebar if your not face isn't on there. How many of you think quinacridone magenta is a warm color? Okay, how many of you think it's a cool color? Okay, shocked, I didn't know either. Quinacridone magenta is a cool color. And you go, but it's magenta. How can it be cool? It's a cool color. It's what it's mixed with, going back to what Ellen was talking about. And so that is going to start to play in. So yeah, the mixes are fine, but why? Like, why is it important to know that? And why does it say in my palette that quinacridone magenta is the glue? Well, if anybody knows me, they know I always tend towards a cool palette. And that is the color that will amplify my colors, because most of the colors on that palette are cool. Anybody else? Oh, I'm just say this too. I'm also planning, if you're not on the Facebook page, the Community of Artists, the one thing that Patreon has not really fully developed yet is an interactive, like you could post photos, just post photos. You could imagine the craziness that as a web developer could put in. They're not just that robust yet. But I want to do like quarterly art walks that we go on there, we just surge of artwork going through like what you've done from the lesson. The reason why I want to do it quarterly is I don't want the pressure. If you didn't do it last week, you got to have it done next week, this week. I want it to be like, maybe you've only done one lesson in 3 months and that's the one you want to share, but do these art walks where we can really just see what's happening. Because sometimes I believe if you start seeing other perspectives of the work, it kicks into what you love. Like, I'm just going to call you out, Becca, because I know your style of work pretty well. Becca does these abstracted, realistic women figures. They're in different colors. So I might take, the Titan Mars Pale and mix it with something to make a Caucasian skin tone that looks realistic. But then Becca takes the same lesson and she's done it all in blue. And it looks spectacular. But for me, I always go, I never even thought about that. Like, seeing it is a great way that even if you didn't do the lesson, you're like, oh, I'm going to do it now because I saw everybody else's. So quarterly, I'll do this. So if you're not on the Facebook page, I probably should link that here. That probably would be smart. I will get that for you. And it's a like a open Facebook page. It doesn't really have any rules. For the foamy stamps, large or small? Great question. I have used the large one of this one most. This has the 12 sections. It's hard to see because it's black. I have not used the small one yet. So for these, I use them both because if I'm doing a full page, I'll use the big one. And if I'm doing like the sideways on the page, I'll use this one. And this also fits obviously sideways in the book too. So for example, when I did this one, I know that you can draw a grid of 5 big blocks. Don't think I don't know that, but I use this one. And then for these, you can see I use the 5 and then the 10 over here. However, the 5, you just go like this and it could make a 10 and stamp it again. So no, you don't need them all. You only need them if you need them. Where can we find your stamps? All right, I will also link in every post. I call it a supplies reference because I always feel like there's pressure to buy something if it's like this is a supply list that you must have. It's more of a reference. This is what I use. So if you decide it's something that you want, you can make an educated decision. I would tell you, unless you're just like, I just buy shit. But I would tell you, if you are not in a position where buying shit because it makes you happy and retail therapizing yourself, watch the lesson, then decide if it's something you want to invest in. I put the link for art foamies. I didn't specifically link the specific ones I use. It's just the ones that I make that are over there. I I do, like when I use a stencil, I link it. When I use a stamp, I link it. So I'll make sure I just put that in there. But I do advise, don't spend a whole lot of money on stuff you might not end up needing as much. All right. Well, this is your final chance to spew out all your heart's desires. All right, well, I will